Hello, Jenna Kutcher. Thank you so much for joining me on your small business podcast. How are you?
Oh, I'm so good. I'm so glad I get to be with you today, Janice. Thank you for having me.
You are so welcome. You're making like my year or
Oh,
10.
let's do it.
So, well, I am so excited to have you on here and talk about your new book. How are you really? This is so
Yes.
awesome.
I know.
Yeah. So my first question is, we're so used to you giving us the business strategies and the marketing ideas. Um, and this book is so different. It is really some deep soul searching in this book. So what gave you that inspiration to write how you really about not about business, not about what we're
I
used to?
know. Oh, Janice, it's so funny because when I first started writing the manuscript, I did it without a book deal, without an agent, without anything. And I first started writing a business book because, I run the Gold Digger podcast. I'm known in the business world. Why would I not? And it was really funny because when I finally ended up doing the formal publishing process, my agent was like, I'm going to pick out these chapters for the proposal. These ones really sung to me and they had nothing to do with business. And she goes, you're known in this space, but you're so much more. You're not just selling this entrepreneurial dream, you're selling this lifestyle, this philosophy. And I think it's such a good reminder for us, even in the space that you're in with the show that you have, we are these multifaceted, multi-passionate, multi-hyphenate human beings, and there's so much more. And for me, I love entrepreneurship so much, but the reason why I love it is because it's given me this life, this life that I enjoy. And entrepreneurship is not for everyone. We know how hard it is, right? And so I'm so grateful now as the book is entering the world that it's not a business book, because I feel like it can touch so many more lives that way. And I'm also excited to expand my identity beyond being known for one thing.
Yes, that is so awesome because now you can teach about business strategies, but also
Yes.
about life. Amazing.
Yes.
It's so awesome. So, part one of the book, you talk about how to discover feelings and how to because we all go through the by this age. You're supposed to have kids by this age. Be well into your career, and your friends and family that stress on you. But how does one start that process of ditching that pressure and focusing on your own path?
Yes. Oh my gosh, such a great question. It's funny because for many of us, and I'm assuming hopefully for you as well, or maybe not hopefully, but we've experienced it where we've followed this path, we've accomplished these goals, and we arrive and we're like, this doesn't feel like I thought it would, right? Like I thought this would feel different, or I thought my life would change, or I thought I would wake up a different human because this one thing happened. And for so many of us women, especially, it's like our lives are planned out from the age of 3. Like I have a 3-year-old, and I've been watching some of the old Disney movies we used to watch, and I'm like, this messaging is so terrible. Like, honey, you don't have to wait for a male to swoop in and save you. There's just things like that. And so for me, so much of my success and looking at the last decade of my life and the many pivots I've made has been because I've stayed in touch with alignment. Like for me, success is peace, and peace comes through alignment. And so for anyone that's listening, if you're like, I've achieved these things and they don't feel the right way, a lot of us have this tendency to just place the finish line further and further away instead of pausing and being like, am I running the right race? Like, am I following the right path? Did I get off course? And so it's really, and the heartbeat of the book is come back to yourself and come back to the place of this is what I want my life to feel like, because our world is eating with its eyes first, and we're so fixated on what things look like that we don't actually pause long enough to say how am I really? Like, am I happy? Do I feel fulfilled? Am I out of alignment? And so for me, that's really been a big thing is like coming back home to myself and my knowing. And I think women, especially, have these massive inner knowings. And I think the world has tried to silence that because they're afraid, like, what is a woman who is fully energized and fully ready to go and fully in alignment? What can she do? She can change the world. And I think that's exactly what we're ready to do.
Yes. Oh my goodness. I want to touch on what you said that your success means peace,
Yes.
and it's like you hear so many people talk about how much money they have and they're so rich, but
Yeah.
they don't have they're working their tail off. They are
Yeah.
exhausted. They're not spending time with their family. And they're still reaching. And that piece is like you said, that finish line
Yes.
there and further. And that's just that is it. That is the key.
Yes.
That is the
Yes.
key.
I want my life to have ease. I was just talking to a woman the other day because, with the book coming out, this is the busiest I've been in like 4 years. And she goes, you don't need to worry about your life feeling like a tornado or a hurricane. Like, if you think about the wind in those, they're forceful, but they leave destruction. She said, you move through life like a gentle breeze, and you're going to do that through this process. The breeze that you enjoy, that you're aware of, that you notice. And I was like, I freaking love that. And she was talking about like how a gentle breeze is enough to like take a seed and like implant it into its next stage. And I was like, I need all of this. But I was like, I think so many of us are craving peace and ease in our lives, but we don't know how to express it. And maybe we've never acknowledged that fact, right?
Yes. I love that. A good gentle breeze.
Yes.
It makes me say exhale.
Yes.
It's like you
Exhale.
find
It's like when your Apple Watch is like, hey, reminder to breathe. And you're like, oh, yeah, I haven't been breathing. Thank you.
that. My breath working. That is excellent. So, what do you say to those people that, they find it difficult to live in the moment, to truly experience their experiences? They're so focused on the future, they're so focused on what next that they can't even they're missing out on right now at this moment.
Yeah.
How do you manage to do just that? How do you get that into that mindset?
Yeah. So for me, one of the biggest things was really struggling with this idea of balance. And I think balance is such an outdated notion in our world, especially for ambitious women. If you actually research the word balance, balance is like a moment in time. It's not something that's meant to be maintained. Like, it's almost impossible to maintain balance. And so for me, I've really learned how to blend. And what I mean by that is like, Janice, have you ever been in a room where you don't feel fully invited to be exactly who you are, right? Like, you're like a specific version of Janice, and then you have to shape shift and you have to be a different version and a different version based on where you are and what role you're playing. And there's this line in the book that says, like, loneliness isn't being in isolation. Loneliness is being surrounded by people who don't fully know you. And I think a lot of us are facing this reality that it's impossible to be present because we're not able to be like a whole human being. Like, we can't be like the hot mess express at the same time as being accomplished and, all of these different things. And so for me, presence has been this like actual grounding where it's like when I cross the threshold of a room, I think about like, where am I right now? How do I like pay attention? How do I have this awareness? Like, my kids need me right now, or my work needs me right now, because so many of us are living in this state of like guilt. Like, we're thinking about our children when we're working, and when we're working, we're thinking about our children, and we're thinking about all these things that need our attention, that it's impossible for us to like be grounded in the moment. And so for me, it's like when I close my laptop at the end of the day, before I cross the threshold into the bedroom with my children, I'm like, I'm here right now. Like, I'm just going to breathe into this moment. And I think it's really something that we are afraid to do because being still is almost scarier for us than being busy. Being busy is easy. It's like our autopilot, especially for achievement based people like you and I. And so it's like the stillness that is scary, but it's the stillness that we need to invite back into our lives that allows us to figure out, what do we want? How are we going to go after it? And like, what are we going to do about it?
Yes, that is so excellent. How do you feel about, you talked in your book about, you know, who your support system, who has you
Yes.
and all of that. So, what do you say to those who actually don't have a support system? I talk to so many, small business owners, entrepreneurs who are needing that and they just don't have it, but somehow they
Yes.
keep going. How how do they manage to do all of this without that support?
Yeah. It's really interesting. So when I was thinking about the format of the book, the first portion of the book is who you are really. And that second portion that you're talking about, who you have and who has you. And I really think, especially now as we're coming out of the pandemic and all of our lives have changed. And we've lived through that saying where it takes a village and we haven't had one. It's really like more present now than ever that we're like, we are not meant to do life alone, whether it's parenthood, whether it's entrepreneurship, whether it's relationship, whether it's friendship. And I think so many of us are feeling broken that, like, our phones aren't ringing off the hook with invitations or things like that. But on the flip side, we're not inviting anyone into our lives either, right? Like we're waiting for the phone to ring, but we're not the ones sending the messages. And for me, I know when I became an entrepreneur, I literally felt like isolated on an island, right? Like I felt like nobody understands this. Nobody gets what it takes. Nobody understands all the roles I have to wear to get this idea off the ground. Everyone's doubting me, all of these things. And it kept me isolated. And I remember this quote my friend Brendan Burchard says, and he's like, if you like at the end of the life, at the end of your life, if you're like at the top of the mountain and you look around and there's nobody with you, you've done it wrong. And I feel like that's such a powerful
Uh,
message, especially for entrepreneurs, because when you enter entrepreneurship, I believe that a lot of us are limited by that scarcity mindset, right? Like there's this feeling that like if they get it, it means I can't. Like if she does this thing, it means that I won't be able to. But you have to flip that scarcity belief into this belief of like, here's what's possible. That person is painting what's possible for me. That changes everything. And it makes you want to not just like bring people along on your journey, but literally link arms and say, let's do this together. And I would say for people with small businesses, it's really easy to trick ourselves into believing like no one will understand it. Give them the opportunity to understand it. Help them to understand it. Help them and invite them into your world of what you do and why you do it and how hard it is, and allow people to support you. Because I know so many people, especially your listeners, are busy white knuckling their business and then wondering why no one is walking in to save them. It's because they're not even able to whisper the words, I need help. And there's a chapter in the book where it talks about how I was doing that in my business. And literally, like those three words, I need help, full stop, no explanation, changed my life. And I feel like that's what's necessary to start building that community around you that allows you to do the work you love in a way that only you can do it.
that is great advice. Just let them in. Just
Yes.
let them in.
People
Really.
are waiting to help you, and your stubbornness is keeping them out of your life. It's crazy.
It is. And I am one of those that's stubborn stuff. I'm a
I can
Taurus.
tell.
That,
You and me both.
yes. We were
Oh,
right, we're right here.
that's right.
Yes, yes. But this has been so great. And so please give us all the details of how to get your book and
Yeah.
all behind it and how we can connect with you on social media.
Oh, Janice, first, before I do all of that, I just want to commend you and your show and what you're doing and who you're speaking to and the way that you are doing it is so incredible. And I feel like when we enter this world and when we, speak into a microphone, it's easy to forget the lives that you are changing and the lives that you are impacting just by sharing your voice. And so I just first want to acknowledge your work and remind you that it matters because I think it is so easy to forget in the pursuit. And you should just be so proud of yourself. And I am just so grateful to be with you, but I'm also grateful to share. So my book is at howareyourreallybook.com, or you can just go Amazon, Target, your local indie bookstore. How Are You Really is the book. And I'm so excited for your audience to get their hands on it because there are so many stories from burnout to breakthrough to asking for help to starting the business to whispering the dream. It's all inside of those pages. And I just really, truly believe that like our hearts are aligned, you and me, and that your audience is going to love it. So I really hope that they get their hands on it. And thank you so much for having me.
You are so welcome, and thank you so much for being on the show. This has been fantastic, a dream come true. Thank you so
You are amazing.
Thank you. You too.
We did it. We